What is up? Welcome back to the James Kennedy podcast. Man, do you know what? It actually feels weird saying that because I haven't said it in a few weeks. But look, I am back with a vengeance. The hiatus is over. We had a good run for the first year or two. It was every week just knocking him out. And then obviously life caught up. I had a book to write and all that jazz. And I had to park this bad boy up. But we are back, baby. And I've got some insane guests coming your way really, really shortly. Also, this podcast will soon be going to video. That's right, man. We're switching gears for 2024. We are going video on this thing. So watch this space because any episode now, we will be lifting off into video. But what have I been up to? I hear you scream. Nothing much other than book writing. Still, oh my God. So, right, I wrote Noise Damage in like 2 months and a bit. You know, it was about 2 months pretty much, and then a little bit of editing afterwards, right? But that book flew out of me. This book that I'm writing now, well, it was a bit different. I mean, I smashed like about 4 or 5 chapters out in 2021. Not long after Noise Damage went to number 1, I got a book agent and all that sort of stuff. And I immediately set to work on book number 2, you know, to keep the momentum going on that front. Because Noise Damage had more like success and traction than I ever imagined. Just the fact it got published was beyond my wildest dreams, to be honest. I didn't think anybody was ever going to read the damn thing. So, so I started immediately setting to work on book number 2. Like I say, smashed out a few chapters right off the heels of Noise Damage coming out in 2021, early 2021. And then obviously life got in the way, you know, in not many good ways, in all honesty, for the next like year and a half, which I've spoken about before, so we don't need to get into that now. But then I had like a publishing deadline of the end of 2023 to get this thing finished by, and I was ill for like most of last year, as you know. So I had to like squeeze the rest of this book in then into like the final few months of 2023. But I'm a different man now to what I was when I started writing this thing. And it's just a weird experience picking up a book that you started like over a year before like life went crazy on you, and then just picking it up and carrying on as normal. I mean, that's just a fucking weird way to write a book. So the lesson I've learned is that next time I write a book, I will be smashing it out in 2 or 3 months, like I do with my albums, because I'm realizing that that's how I work. The last 3 or 4 albums I've done have all been completely written, recorded, mixed, mastered, everything ready to go within 2 or 3 months. That's going from having no songs, no words, no riffs, no nothing, to having a complete album master disc on your desk. 2 to 3 months. That's how I've written Make Anger Great Again, Home, Kashira Circle was written like that. That's my rhythm. So I feel like I can be very intense about something for a few months, and if it drifts on longer than that, then I just lose interest in the thing. So this book has been a struggle because there was that 1.5 year wedge between starting the thing excitedly and then coming back to it, kind of panicking, thinking, fuck, I got to finish this thing in like 3 months or something. So I would love to write more books. This one's been a struggle because of, like everything I've been through this past 2 years, like life stuff's been really, really heavy going, you know, and then obviously, you know, rushing to finish the thing, which was just pressure rather than enjoyment. So this one's been an interesting one. I'm really proud of how it's turned out. I can't wait for you guys to read it and share it with you all. But I do want to write more books. But yeah, next time I do it, I will be like going off the radar for about 2 or 3 months, smashing the thing out in a blizzard of creative focus, and then I'll be getting back on with my life because this one's been a struggle. But that said, the mother is done. It'll be going off to the publishers now in the next 2 weeks when I give it one little final wax on and wax off, and then the job's a good one. So I'll have all my time back to focus on the podcast and James Kennedy and the Underdogs, who've got loads and loads of stuff coming up this year. New material, lots of gigs and videos and lots more. Watch this space. But the podcast is back, and I just can't wait to jump back into these conversations with super awesome minds and super talented people. I love having these conversations. I hope you enjoy listening to them as well. So I'm excited to be back in the podcast seat. Now, speaking of super awesome and talented people, I have got one very such specimen for you today. Joining us from Nashville, the insanely talented, annoyingly multi-talented, I would say, musician, singer, songwriter, and visual artist as well, Hannah Wicklund, whose brand new album, The Prize, is out this very Friday the 12th, available to pre-order now. I've had a sneak preview of it, and it is absolutely fucking brilliant, as was her previous EP, Hell in the Hallway, which I absolutely love. She is so talented, but she has been grinding this circuit now for years and years and years. She's been doing it the old punk rock way in a transit van, going back and forth across America, paying her dues, earning her stripes, and man, she is flying right now. She is crushing it, and rightfully so. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And she joins us here today to talk about the music industry, her amazing career, a new album, art, the creative process, everything that's coming up, and loads more. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. I'll be dropping a link to Hannah's new album and her Spotify page. We can hear her previous releases as well in the show notes. Please, please, please check it out. Turn it up loud and you can thank me later. Okay, let's get down to business and welcome on to the show from Nashville, the incredible, the awesome, the lovely, the talented, the brilliant Hannah Wicklund. Hannah, how you doing, man?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, man. I must say I am loving that setting. The listeners can't see right now, but there is a vast discrepancy in our comfort levels right now. Hannah is sitting in what looks like a lovely, sunny Nashville afternoon. You're very creative and chill. You got plants and guitars everywhere and art and stuff. And yeah, it looks very, very cool and cozy there, man. Whereas I'm freezing my ass off in a podcast studio in South Wales where it is currently raining and grey and sleety and cold and drab. So I'm a little bit envious.
A little bit different. Well, I was recently I was in the UK and while it is kind of gloomy and kind of rainy over there right now, it is still so beautiful. So I feel for you, but I really love spending time over there. So I don't feel too bad for you.
Great recovery, man. I love that balance there. Yeah, well, you're actually coming back over here, aren't you, next year? And I noticed that you're playing my hometown favorite venue of the Globe in Cardiff, where I actually played with my own band just a few months back. So we're going to get into all that stuff and let everybody know what you got coming up. But to start with, could you give us the brief introduction to Hannah Wicklund, who you are, where you're from, your journey, how you got here, and what's going on?
Well, let's see. I'm born and raised on a small island called Hilton Head Island off the coast of South Carolina. And I was born into a massively creative family. My mom's an artist and my dad a musician, not by trade. He's a painting contractor. He paints people's houses, but and he's really good at it. But he was a drummer for like the first like homegrown rock band on Hilton Head, and they used to play out, like they were the band on the island. And so, I have an older brother and an older sister who are both quite creative people as well. And so I was really fortunate to be really supported at a young age to follow my dreams, whatever they were, and music or otherwise. And I definitely found myself, flocking to music. I started playing piano when I was 3, and I started playing guitar at 8, and I started my band like 6 months after I started playing guitar.
Wow.
And so it was a quick decision that I knew I wanted to play rock and roll, be like my older brother and like my dad. And and Hilton Head was such a tourist-driven place that there was ample opportunity to play and develop my talent when I was young. So that whole phrase, the 10,000 hours thing, I abide by and believe in. And by the time I was 16, I graduated high school a couple years early, and I hit the road as a youngin', and I've been I've been through the ringer when it comes to the music business. I've kind of been in all different types of rooms and meetings and all of that kind of stuff. And I've found myself coming out the other side, self-managing, self-releasing, kind of carving my own path at this point. So that's kind of the nicely wrapped up version. But yeah.
Love it.
Rock and roller.
Love it. Well, that's the nicely wrapped version. And now we're going to fucking pull it wide open and dive into the nitty gritty. Because exactly like you said, you've seen this industry now from all sides. You've been in the boardrooms, you've seen the highs, you've seen the lows, and you've been kicking it a long time, man, and kicking ass as well. But I don't think people fully appreciate when they look at someone where you're at right now, crushing it, fucking touring half the world next year. You played Wembley last year. You're fucking flying right now, dude. But people don't realize the journey. They see the tip of the iceberg. It's that whole thing. They see the tip of the iceberg and they don't realize all the shit that you had to go through to get there. People don't see that stuff. So I'd like to dive into some of that stuff if you don't mind, because I think it's really healthy for other musicians on their way up to realize what people like yourself have had to go through to get to where you are, you know?
Yeah, I think that this business is quite full of the smoke and mirrors, and I think even when you're being authentic, which I've just now kind of rounded the corner of where I'm really ready to discuss the actual business side of what I've been going through, because when I was 18 and started taking like really serious big time meetings with people in the industry, that perception and what the people that you're meeting with want you to think is like that you can't do it without them. And that, it's kind of like it's like it's like leveling up. It's like, yeah, everybody wants a manager. Like everybody wants to have a team for them. Everybody wants to be signed to a label, right? Like that's what we're all kind of told is the way to go about things. So, I've had a lot of like weird things happen. I've worked with some not so awesome people. My radar's been off before. And, there's lots of different things that can lead to the ending of a business relationship, but I have found a lot of those. I think that coming out the other side and making the decision to self-manage and to just not even entertain. Like that's the best part about where I'm at now is that I'm not taking flagrant meetings. I'm not just having coffee with whomever. I'm not letting all these different people give me their opinion on my music, which is something that happened so rampantly from the age of like 18 to 21, is that all these people's opinions were going through my mind, and there was no boundary around who I was meeting with. It was just kind of take any meeting, take all of them. And I think that now I've got my head screwed on in a different way to where I'm not really fazed by the name dropping at this point. I'm not really fazed by the dangling carrots, so to speak, and I'm more moved by action and follow through. And that's what there is very little of in this industry. So, I'm very, it took a second to not feel, almost embarrassed that I was self-managing and like to wear it as a badge of honor, as opposed to being something that I kind of skirted around because, the 18, 19-year-old version of myself did not expect to be, self-managing and doing the things that I am doing, at this point. So it's a little bit of like shaking off my own judgment from when I was young, of myself now and being like, no, it's actually way cooler and way more rock and roll to decide that I'm going to do this the more untraditional way, which actually, if you look at a lot of the most badass women, I think us ladies have had to carve out our own path more often than not. And I think that, like Ani DeFranco and Joan Jett, those are two women that have, built their own labels. And when they were kind of, facing adversity in the business side of things, they took matters into their own hands. And that's basically what I've done now with getting my, new label together. And I'm working with new partners, but I am very much the boss of Strawberry Moon Records and the boss of Hannah Wicklund. So it feels good to be in my newly claimed position.
That's fucking awesome, dude. Fucking round of applause to you, dude, because like that is a serious amount of work. That's serious commitment and belief in what you do, and not letting the experiences of old sort of trip you up and tarnish your belief and your passion and your energy for this thing, and to just keep on trucking, doing your own thing with you behind the wheel. That's amazing. And look at you go. You know what I mean? Like you're soaring harder and higher than ever before, man. And it's you're in full control. So like I said, you should totally and definitely wear that as a badge of honor rather than anything else. And you're in control, Seriously impressive, man. Super awesome. And I noticed that when I was getting the links and everything for the show notes, I noticed the release says that it's out by Flatiron Records. So I'm just assuming then that you have a licensing deal with those guys for distribution. Is that the way you're doing it?
Yeah, so they're now kind of like the big umbrella. And I've basically created an imprint for Strawberry Moon Records underneath them. So while Strawberry Moon Records is home to just my music right now, I think hopefully in the future there's a place to add some other people to that roster. So yeah, it's a developing relationship, but I feel very fortunate to have people believe in not only my music, but also believe in me as a businesswoman, which is the biggest thing that I have found with these new people that I'm working with, is that I'm respected on a totally different level than every other person that I've worked with, mostly being management. I think that, I think management is a very fickle thing for artists. I think if you find the right one and you find the right person that is a really good flow, then that's amazing. But I think a lot of times when you're young, finding that stuff, it's very hard to be respected in the business realm by those people. I think that that's where like the steamrolling comes in, and where like some of the manipulation and things like that kind of are extra heavy, is when people are young and don't know much about the business yet. So yeah, it feels nice to be growing my business side,
Yeah, man,
alongside my musician side. So.
That's awesome. So okay, so you got the label, which is your label, so you're in control. Mm-hmm. You've pull the strings, you call the shots, but you've got guys that help you put it out. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No manager.
Nope.
You must have a booking agent though, surely.
Oh, I've got the best agents. Yeah, I'm with UTA, and I've been with my agents since pre-COVID, and yeah, they're amazing. Joel Feld and Beth Morton. I've got a US and then a rest of world. So yeah, the agent side is very important. I did book my own shows when I was young. Like I pretty much took over I started playing out shows when I was 9, and started getting paid around that age. And my dad handled the phone calls up until I was 12 years old. And then I took over all of the phone calls for all of the shows. I was the person, if you wanted to book the Stepping Stones, you had to talk to little Hannah. And we were booked. We were heavily booked for being any band, let alone like, kid band. I really despised that term, but yeah. And then, so I was kind of naturally doing everything. I was running our website and running our socials and doing all of that and going to school. And so then when I graduated at 16, part of me graduating so early was because I knew I wanted to go on the road. I already knew what my life path, was going to be, grand scheme. And so I pretty much at 16, me and my drummer went out on on like a little road trip for like 2.5 weeks around the Southeast and Northeast. And I went into every single club, every single venue that I could find that had, that I could find on Google. And I went in there with a CD and asked them to pass it along to whoever booked the venue. I was lucky enough to meet a couple of the people that booked the shows. And so actually the venue that we're playing and the show that we're playing in Atlanta on my Hell in the Hallway tour next year, the promoter, Joel Grobe, I've known for 10 years because I was 16 and went into the Hard Rock Cafe and he was working. I gave him a CD and he's the person that gave me my first ever ticketed, legitimate rock and roll show. When I was like 17 or 18, we played in Atlanta. But up until that point, though, I was like emailing. Oh, God, I would email like 100 different places to get a response from 5, maybe. And then we'd probably land like one show. And it was extra hard getting people to book a 16 and 18-year-old filled band. But I did it. And I played my own agent, which is what landed me when I was 18. I got my first agent, and that was like the first real piece of the puzzle of my like team that I had ever really put into place was an agent. So yeah, I would never, ever, ever do that myself again, though. I love having a good agent.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! I think that's like my journey's very similar to yours, but you've been kicking ass way more than I than I ever did. But it was always like a very similar. I mean, my situation now is the same as yours. I run my own label. In fact, my whole back catalog has been put out through my own label. I started doing that about 10 years ago, I think, because I was just fed up of getting fucked over by people. The first deal I had to take them to court because they ran off with all of our money, and then the guy went to jail for shooting somebody and all sorts of bullshit. So I just set up my own label, put out a bunch of albums myself. I've got my own publishing company, which is sub-published by Cobalt, so I do a similar umbrella sort of deal to what you got going on as well. And management, yeah, I've always self-managed. I've had managers, and again, one of them ended up with a court case. The other one was just disappeared off the face of the earth. I'm sure you've experienced some of these lovely characters yourself. But a booking agent, you've got to they are essential. You've got to have a good booking agent that's going to book you the right scale for where you are. And it sounds like you've got the right package there, man.
I feel very, very grateful. I have finally, in the last 6 months, really felt very secure when it comes to my career, which I've never felt since I was like 15. And that wasn't really quite a career. That was me playing gigs, so in terms of where I'm at now, I certainly feel like I have landed, at the right formula for myself right now. And who knows, maybe I'll hand over like management at some point, but I don't really think that's the way things are going to go. I think I just need a good, we call it, the day-to-day manager, like basically, somebody to just keep all of the ducks in a row and make sure that your schedule is set and, cross your T's and dot your I's. That kind of person is very important. And I'm lucky to have that. But it's there. I think that whole saying, too many cooks in the kitchen, is really true. And especially if it sounds like you're the same kind of artist as I am, which is that I've got a very solid view of what I want my career to be. And for me, my career includes not just music. I've also got the art side of my career, which now I've been able to tie into my music with my new record, The Prize. But I also have, I have other aspirations. When I was a child, I did musical theater, and I've had some people reach out to me about auditioning for, TV, film. And so I've actually started seeking out some auditions too, and kind of reconnecting with that side, which who knows, that's a mix. That's like a toss up of whether you'll actually ever land anything. But yeah, I think it's really helpful if you're a very aspirational person to, have a good sense of direction on your own first. So even if you are somebody who wants a manager, or you do end up adding that person in, exactly what you want, because that was what my biggest mistake was with my first manager, for sure, is that I didn't really have a strong sense of exactly where I wanted to go next, and that meant I went nowhere with the person that I was with. So yeah, it's ironic, in hindsight, in my career, the times I've had the least going on and when I've been the least busy has been when I've had a manager. So
that's crazy, man. And I hear that so much from fellow artists. This conversation has already taken a massive left turn from where I was initially going to take it. We are going to talk about the album, I promise. We are going to talk about the tour and the artwork and all that sort of stuff. But I'm really interested. I'm interested in where this is going. So I think this is super useful for other people to hear, especially up-and-coming musicians, because people don't have any idea what it takes to just fucking last 2 minutes in this game. And I think especially in the age of social media, like, musicians are constantly, we compare ourselves to other people. We're thinking, oh, they're fucking doing this and they're doing that. Why can't I catch a break? I'm working hard. I'm talented. And they think that it's just them that's having those struggles in those moments. But you've been through them, and now you're fucking slaying it, higher and better and harder than ever before. So I think you're a great example of hope to many musicians who are going through the experiences that you had early on in your career, that like, hey, look, yeah, I've been through that. It wasn't the end for me. I learned from it. You know, I got my lessons and my scars, and, you know, and here I am now fucking smashing my own path. You know what I mean? So I'd love to just talk a bit more about those early experiences, if you don't mind, because I know for so many people, you know, they feel like their career trajectory kind of, especially when you start getting these guys on board at the early stages, it kind of goes up and it goes up and it goes up. And then all of a sudden it kind of plateaus out and then either falls through the floor and never recovers again, or it just kind of stays where it is and fizzles out. So I'm interested in how you went through all that and then came out swinging as you are now.
You know, it's really hard for me to think of my story in that like linear, or like it, you know, went up and then plateaued, because in my mind, it's just been a complete roller coaster the entire time. Like, you know, and I could take you through step by step exactly what kind of happened, but the quick version, and the more, you know, the less painful version is, you know, when I was 18, I started working with a booking agent. I was meeting with, Scooter Braun was technically my very first ever meeting ever, like 3 days after I turned 18. He flew me out to LA, offered me an artist development deal. I was not ready to be Hannah Wicklund at that point. I had my band, The Stepping Stones, and I basically just never called him again. And I kept going down, you know, my work harder, not smarter path in some ways. And I got my first agent like a month or two after that meeting. And that agent, you know, he worked really hard for me. But he had outside aspirations of doing more than just being my agent. I think that he was basically like managing me without it being that blunt. And he was basically like, in my mind, the way I see things is kind of like fended off managers and kind of dissuaded me from pursuing any management for about 2 years. And that whole time kind of had me, I was 18, 19, and I was opening up for like Marshall Tucker and the Outlaws and Kansas and Jefferson Airplane and like all of these awesome acts that I listened to growing up and I covered some of and I loved. So at 18, 19, my eyes were like wide open and like, oh my God, this is so. But I woke up, you know, a year and a half, 2 years later, and like I had literally not met one artist my own age. I hadn't done any touring with any current artist. I had almost become this like relic act opener. Like that was almost like, and we were building me as a headliner too, but I just kind of got stuck in this like classic rock loop. And then it was, you know, then I got my first manager who came on board and kind of saw, and there were some other weird things that were kind of going on inside of like the agent relationship. And so very quickly, that manager got rid of the agent and kind of opened my eyes to, hey, the last like 2.5 years, this is what's been actually kind of going on. And then I was able to, and then all of a sudden my perspective went through a huge shift where I saw the industry in a totally different light. And you know, that was kind of the first scar. And then since then there have been many more, but I would just say that the path has been very up and down, and
right.
I've got lots and lots of stories to share, and a good transition to bring us into talking about the record and about my tour is the tour that I'm doing is called Hell in the Hallway. And it is the first track off of my new record, which I wrote Hell in the Hallway back in, 2019, I believe. I wrote it in 2019, January of 2019, a few days after I fired my first manager. And the song, the Rattlesnake, who you speak of, the snake is very much, you know, representative of those music business men.
Love it.
And so, yeah, like my guitar maker, Anderson Guitars, there's a woman who works there, Rachel, and I talked to her on the phone and I told her, I needed something or whatever. And I called and she's like, oh, thank God, he was such an asshole when I told her that I wasn't working with that manager anymore. And I was like, well, thanks for telling me. But everybody tells you what they think of who you're working with
Afterwards.
after. Yeah, exactly. And you're like, guys, tell me this. It's like your friend dating some really shitty dude, and then you finally and they're like, oh, thank God. And you're like, why didn't you tell me? But anyways, she told me, she's like, because I was really unsure of what was going on in my career, because now I didn't have an agent because he had fired my agent. And I didn't have a manager, and I just dropped Hannah Wicklund and the Stepping Stones. And so Bomb Through the Breeze was getting placed like crazy. And all of a sudden I didn't have a tour. I didn't have a team.
Oh, fuck.
It was, and so my lovely lady, Rachel at Anderson says, well, my mom always used to say, when one door closes, another one opens, but there's always hell in the hallway.
Oh, nice.
And I go, can I use that for a song? She said, yes, as long as you say thank, just thank my mom. So thank you, Rachel's mom. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So the prize is really like, that record is pretty much the summation of the 19 to 21-year-old version of me and all of like the things that I went through. And it's a portrayal of not only, relationships ending. It's a portrayal of music business relationships, or just business relationships expiring, and kind of what comes with that. And then it's also, it touches on, the relationship you have with yourself, or the relationship I had with myself, in the title track, The Prize. So yeah, there's our good little bridge interlude into the other stuff. Yeah.
Love it. And I love that segue as well. Very professionally done, dude. You've clearly done this before. Because, let's talk about the new record. I want to give a shout out first to Hell in the Hallway, which you just mentioned, because I absolutely love that EP. It's fucking brilliant, dude. And I think it sets the listener up perfectly for the new record, The Prize, because 4 of the tracks from the EP are on the album, and the whole album as an entirety is just fucking genius. Honestly, it's all killer, no filler, and it's got everything on there, man. It's got the rock and roll guitar, it's got your voice, it's got the songwriting, it's got great musicianship, it's got a great vibe, it's got emotion. It's the whole fucking ride, man, and I just love it. And I wanted to talk to you because there's so much in your sound. There's so many different sounds and influences I can hear. But I wanted to know, I wanted to ask you directly, who are your influences? Are you kind of aware of who they are? Because I know when you've been doing this a while, like we have, and you're caught up in the middle of the process, you're oftentimes not aware. But who would you say are your sort of direct inspirations and influences in your sound?
I've never really thought about it as like listening to my music and trying to hear what I hear, which I think is more what you're asking, which I've never done. So maybe I'll try that. I'll try listening and thinking about what I hear. But I know, just based on me as a human, the stuff that inspires me is, it's a quite broad range, because I always consider myself a terrible music fan, because I don't necessarily like nosedive into anybody. And like growing up as a guitar player, like loved Jimi Hendrix, but I did not go and watch a million Jimi Hendrix YouTube videos, and I didn't listen to Jimi Hendrix's full catalog. So I was influenced heavily by a lot of people, and I'm more of like a sponge. Like having my older brother and my older sister and my dad, who all love music. I like being a fly on the wall and having everybody else put on the music and just kind of absorbing it. So I'd say like my range of inspiration, especially now that I like really think about it, because when I was younger, 18, 19, doing interviews, I was saying Jimi Hendrix and Lindsey Buckingham. I was just like in this like one like lane. But Etta James, Sheryl Crow, Jeff Buckley, Tom Petty, Neil Young, Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood Mac, a lot of the classic rock stuff. touched my brain growing up. So that's the obvious stuff. But when it comes to like newfound inspiration and one of the big ones for the prize, ironically, I'd finished writing this whole record in 2019. And in 2000, I guess it was 2020, I heard Fiona Apple's Fetch the Bolt Cutters record, which my brother was the one that was like, you should listen to this. And I fell in love with that record. I think that was like the most exciting album I had heard in my adulthood, because all of a sudden, like, these songs were just so, like, yes, they're songs, and once you listen to them many times, I like hear them as like songs, but they felt really abstract to me, and I really enjoyed the way it was recorded. And so Fetch the Bolt Cutters was actually the record that like made me get the ball rolling on starting the recording of the prize, because it was, I think she had like self-produced or co-produced, and I think she did a lot of that record like in her house, which is where you can like hear her dogs barking, and you can actually, my dogs are on Hell in the Hallway too, so I took that little nod. But yeah, so it's quite a wide range of stuff. But
I can hear Jeff Buckley for definite. I was hearing as well some Anna Calvi. I was hearing some Nothing But Thieves, a little bit Hailstorm. I mean, you had not mentioned any of those bands, but so it's interesting what other people hear in it,
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, and I've known of Hailstorm, and I think that, gosh, Lizzie Hale is such a badass. I think that music is a little bit more on like the rock side of things, which I very intentionally call myself rock and roll, because I think that rock is too harsh of a category for me to live in. But like Tom Petty, like I consider Tom Petty to be the ultimate like rock and roll, kind of artist, where he's writing songs, but there's still guitar solos, and it's, the lyrics mean something. And
well, Tom Petty is a badass, isn't he? And Fiona Apple as well. I absolutely adore. I fucking love her music. So I think that's the beautiful thing about music, is that like everyone can hear something different in it, can't they? I mean, you make what you make, and it comes from where it comes from within you. And then as soon as you put it out to the world, everyone kind of has their own interpretation of it. It kind of becomes their song then, and it becomes their baby then, And I think that's the beautiful thing about it. And I wanted to talk to them. You've already mentioned like some of how you recorded the record. You talked about having your dogs and everything in the background. I'd love to delve more into that, into the process then of how you put the record together, the writing, the recording process. What was the journey?
Well, I pretty much started writing this record in my parents' house. I was transient for about 3 years, where I was just kind of like, I lived in LA for a while, but all of my stuff was in a storage unit in Nashville for a period of time. And so I had just gotten done with like a massive, like 7-8 months of nonstop touring. And I went back to my parents' house, and I was there for like a month, and that was where like a lot of the foundation of like, I'd say more than half the record was kind of started. And then I went to a little cabin that my grandparents had built up in the Poconos, which it was the last time I got to be there because we sold it. And I was so heartbroken. I was really hoping to be able to like go up there with my kids one day, but I ended up finishing most of the album in that little cabin. I just kind of went there and didn't see anybody and just holed up for a while. But then I think, I went back out to LA for a little bit, and that was where Hell in the Hallway was a co-write with Stevie Aiello. I need to really know how to say his last name, but he's the guitar player for 30 Seconds to Mars, and so we did that co-write, and Hell in the Hallway was, it was one of the more, like, in my mind, like a little bit more like an obvious single. And so I think once that song was written, I feel like a lot of the record had taken shape. But two of the songs that I really loved, Witness, I had started writing at my parents, and so that song was kind of marinating for a while. But I actually went on this cruise, what was it? The Chris Jericho wrestling cruise.
Okay.
Yeah, I promise this will come full circle. It's really weird right now, but
Yeah.
I was in January of 2019. I did a thing called the Rock Boat, and it's like like a music festival on a cruise ship. And the promoters did this thing where they would get every year they would get a couple of the writers from some of the bands playing on the Rock Boat together on a different cruise like 4 or 5 months earlier to write and record an album together. So people you'd never met, you go and you write and record an album in a makeshift studio on a cruise ship in 3 days.
Okay.
And it just was too weird and wacky of an opportunity to not say yes to. So I went on, and it was the first ever wrestling cruise. So everybody walking around the boat was like, making history. Making history. And they had turned the swimming pool on the top floor of the cruise ship into a ring, and like all of like our meals and everything that we ate were with all of the wrestlers. So like I befriended all of these like really like intense, the nicest, sweetest guys and gals. And but basically we just spent the days writing and recording. And one of the songs that I wrote with a really, really awesome dude named Nick Talbot of the Talbot Brothers, we co-wrote the song Lost Love together on the Chris Jericho cruise ship. And it was like this hilarious, just like super top, it was like a top secret project we were doing. So like nobody else on the boat knew what we were doing other than like the 15 of us that were involved. And it was just so much fun. So yeah, that's like a fun little tidbit about the writing part of the prize. But
I would never have thought that song was written on a wrestling cruise ship.
Yeah, exactly. It was a very, I'll just say hilarious. It was a very hilarious moment in my life. And I came away having a deep appreciation for wrestling with those guys.
Right.
What they do is pretty cool. They're putting on a show, and very dramatic, very coordinated. But yeah, that was fun. And they had this really cool instrument. Siegel, the company, makes a little like troubadourian style instrument called the Merlin. Basically a dulcimer. And I picked it up, and Lost Love, we wrote it within like 45 minutes or an hour, because the very first time I played that instrument, I started playing what turned into the Lost Love riff that you kind of hear. So there's like that kind of weird acoustic instrument in there, and that's what it was. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I love it when that happens, man. Is that something that you do as a songwriting trick consciously? Because I know as someone who's been playing guitar now for like too many decades, like when I put my hand on the neck, like my fingers kind of go to familiar places, and I have to consciously kind of do shit to stop falling into old habits. So like playing an instrument that you know nothing about, really, it's kind of like unexplored foreign territory, can often lead to coming up with new and interesting shit because you're not following that muscle memory. Is that something that you do as a songwriter, or was it just like a happy accident on that one time that kind of led to the absolute gold of that song?
I think moving through my life as a songwriter, it's a trick that I'm going to take advantage of more often, which is trying to write and challenging myself to write on different instruments outside of just piano and guitar. But I will say I just bought here. I'll show you, even though I know this is a podcast, but I just bought this.
I can see it. That's all that matters.
1920s parlor guitar.
Oh, wow.
It's by Herwin. No, it was for Herwin. I'm still getting the story on it, but basically it's like a gypsy guitar. And so there's like one small like difference that I noticed that has made an effect on my playing, which is that it's instead of the 9th fret being marked, the 10th fret is marked.
Huh.
So I have it.
Right.
I have it in drop D, and I'm just kind of like,
Of course.
yeah, you gotta have one. But it's funny how just having like the markings be a little bit different uh makes you play guitar a little bit different. So
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Like I started experimenting for a while with the one of the Jimmy Page tunings, and I brought a bunch of songs because I just didn't know what the hell I was playing. You know, you play standard chords and it sounds like complete shit. You have to like just like follow your ear, more than following your muscle memory. You know, so yeah, I definitely think experimenting with tunings is a useful thing for me as a guitar player anyway. And drop D, you know, any excuse to tune down to drop D is a good one. So yeah, that guitar looks fucking sick, man. Well, we got to move on to talking about the tour because this is a big one, dude. Like you're pretty much touring the entire of 2024. You know, you're doing the whole of the US pretty much between February and April. And then you come into the UK and even Europe for some more dates as well. And as I mentioned earlier, you're playing one of my favorite local venues just around the corner from where I live. The Globe in Cardiff, where I played with my own band just a few months ago. It's a great venue, so I'll come along to that one. But yeah, I mean, like this is a colossal tour, dude. I mean, you excited?
yeah, it's a lengthy one, but it is time. I am overdue for a nice, healthy headline tour. So it's a lot of dates, but I think I've played. I'm pretty sure I've played with the exception of maybe a few of those UK dates, all of these places before. So it's essentially me like making a return and saying hello and introducing everybody that I've seen and met throughout the years to the world of the prize. And I think it's going to be the most fulfilling tour that I've ever done because up to this point I've done a lot of touring, but this tour has a totally different purpose. Of course I am promoting the prize, but this is also really like the full circle moment of me embracing that, my world and my career is more than just music. And so, I'm going to have special, I'm bringing the art into the show and trying to do a few things, to honor the paintings and the designs and all of that kind of stuff that I've been doing over this time as well. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be a neat culmination of all of my shit.
Yeah, 100%, man. Well, I was going to talk about the artwork as well because that's badass as well. This is why I said at the intro, you're like annoyingly multi-talented, you know? So much of a struggle to be good at one thing and you're good at like five at the same time, you know, it's a pain in the ass. But so what's your touring package like? Because as an artist that's essentially independent, right? You're self-managing, I'm guessing you're doing your own budgeting and stuff like that. How do you tour on a scale like that? Let's just focus on the US. I mean, that's a massive landmass. Are you doing transit van, sharing the driving guys in the back sort of thing, or have you figured out a way to make this doable at an independent level?
No, I am holding strong in my Sprinter van. I have been touring out of my at least it's a Mercedes, but I have been touring out of the same van since I was 18.
Wow.
Yeah, so this van has been very good to me. Has taken me across this country and through Canada many times. But we are in a van. I'm really hoping that we don't have to bring a trailer next year, to be honest. I think we're going to be able to make it all fit. But yeah, we'll have a tour manager and me and the guys and the band. And then I'm trying to work it out right now. I think the next key player to add into my touring regime would be a killer front of house guy, or girl. So I am not positive yet, but it sure would be nice to have for this tour. So we'll see.
Well, you're clearly not someone that suffers obstacles for too long, dude. So I'm sure you're going to have that killer front of house, dude, before too long. And it's interesting. I love the fact that you've done everything you've done in one van. I mean, I need to know where you bought that van for a start, because mine fucking used to break down every 2 minutes. But I have a load of industry veterans on the podcast, and they all talk about, you know, the road to success and the best way to set yourself up for long-term success and everything like that. And the one thing that they all say, and they all say the same thing, is get in a van, get in a car, and just get out there, play some fucking shows, knock some fucking doors, make some calls, turn up, kick some asses. You know, you start playing at one person, then you play to 10 people, and you just keep on fucking doing it. And you are proof. You are proof that what they're saying is the tried and tested way that this works. This is the rock and roll model. This is the DIY rock and roll model. You get in a fucking van and you just turn up and play some shows, you know? And you are the living proof that that model still, after all this time in the digital era when things are so different now, is still the way to get it done. And in the same van.
Yeah, you know, it is that saying, if you want something done right, do it yourself, is making more and more sense to me as I get older. And I think that, I mean, that is pretty much when people ask me for advice or ask me for advice, I pretty much say a very similar thing, which is to just get out there, say yes at the beginning, say yes. Like at the beginning, you have to learn you're going to have to learn things the hard way. You're going to have to learn what you do want to do, what you don't want to do. But the only way by really learning is doing it. So yeah. And I'd say relationships, you know, like be nice and say hello and talk to people. And, you know, one of the things that has saved me throughout this process is, you know, when you work with the manager, you work with a different agent, or you work with different people, you know, you're kind of getting introduced to their world, and it's business. Everybody knows, you know, you're not necessarily going to stick with the same people forever, but, you know, like staying in touch with people that you meet along the way. Like I'm a big fan of staying in touch with people, with, you know, just calling just to see how people are doing, you know, like working on the relationship side, because it's a mutually beneficial thing, to be thought of, you know, to think of other people, to be thought of. And, so also just try and be as gregarious as you can, I'd say too.
Well, people just need to follow your example, man, because, yeah, you are doing it, bro. And, like, you know, long may you continue to do so as well. I'm going to enjoy watching the rest of your journey, because I think you've set yourself up for success. Just, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You got a good thing going. Please don't let any more douchebags into the mix. I think you're just going to keep on flying.
No more douchebags. Amen. I'm getting that on a bumper sticker.
I think you're going to be all right, man. Well, we got to talk about the artwork as well, because you as you mentioned earlier, you were a painter as well. So you actually painted the amazing artwork that people can see on the cover of the prize. That's you, right?
Yeah, that's all me. I one of the beautiful things in a parallel universe, this record would have been released early last year. So it'll be almost 2 years behind where I had initially planned for and imagined the prize dropping, which, believe it or not, was extremely painful, this process of getting this record out. And so the art was really born out of a place of me not wanting to give up on this music yet, because I just was having a really tough time getting this music released and finding a home for this record, which is why me building my label was exciting, but also extremely necessary. And so, you know, by having my hands tied, we got all those men in suits, you know, we got all those suits to thank for me, for my shit kind of stagnating there for a while. But if it hadn't, and if I hadn't had my hands tied and I wasn't able to tour, or I was able to tour there for a year, I literally wasn't able to tour for a period of time. I wouldn't have done all this art. And I basically evolved this world and built this visual side around these songs to further prove, maybe even just to myself, like how much they mean to me and how important this music is to me. And so, when nobody was believing in it, I doubled down and decided to not only write the music, but do a massive art project to go along with it. And it also, like, that's what kept me sane. And that's what kept me, focused and on track, because I could not write music. I could not write another song until I knew how this music was being released. So instead of having my creativity flow through my music for about 2 years, it's been flowing through my art instead. So I'm very grateful to have my paintings and to have my art as a very necessary release.
Well, I think all of this kind of says a lot about you as a person, your character, and your hustle and your work ethic and your survivor spirit. Because for many people, having been through what you've been through early on in your career, and by the sounds of it, some of the hurdles with this record as well, that would have been the end for them. It would have been too much. It would have been too much to overcome. It would have been too painful a setback, and they would have just given up. That would have been the end of it. But that says a lot about you as a person, that you found strength and lessons in all of these things in order to make you stronger moving forward. Whether it's setting up your own label, or this record taking longer than you'd hoped led to you then pursuing visual art and painting, which is now a new thing to add to your long list of annoying talents.
Oh, I know. Yeah, annoying is definitely a word that can be used about me sometimes. but no, I appreciate those kind words, and I really hope that this record can be an inspiration to other people who might not necessarily have that perseverance in themselves to maybe be able to look to this story and look to this record, and if they enjoy this record and if they like the music of this record, having them know that just getting it out to the world was the fight of my life, basically. Up to.
Can we talk about that for a second? Well, for a few minutes, and what were the obstacles?
Basically, I plan on telling this story in a very detailed, thought out manner at some point. I'm not quite there yet. I'm still in the sorting it out without being.
No, that's cool. I get it. I hear you want to work on your diplomatic version before you start saying anything.
Yes. Thank you. I am working on my diplomatic version of this part of my life, and I'm not quite prepared yet, and that's part of healing, is knowing when you are not ready to talk about something yet. But
it's a mistake I make all too often, man. I'm the worst for it. I never learn. I just fucking open my mouth and out it comes, and I just put my foot in my mouth one more time and offended half of some country somewhere. I do it all the time, and I never learn. So wise thinking.
Me too. That's why I've learned, and especially with this story, it's a delicate one. But
okay.
But I mean. The gist is just that a lot of promises were made, and I had some very sexist bullshit and some really bizarre, annoying shit happen when it comes to getting this record out. And but here I am. It's about to be out, and all of that happened for a reason, which I'm very, very, very comfortable saying that now. I think a year ago, I was not in a place where I would say, like, this is happening for a reason. Even though the whole time I knew, but like until you've seen the light. But from where I'm at now, I am, as annoying as it is to say, I am still, I'm grateful for the for the pushback that I had on getting the prize out there, because like I said, I wouldn't have done all of the art, and I wouldn't have doubled down, and I wouldn't have Strawberry Moon Records right now. I wouldn't have a lot of things I'm very proud of in this moment. So it all works out.
100%. Well, amen to that, man. Yeah. Well, and I totally echo everything you said, and I hope that we'll get that story at some point, because I'm going to be looking out for the diplomatic version. Well,
it'll be coming in the book. No, I'm just kidding.
Do it. Hey, it worked out okay for me, man. Just don't name everybody my name like I did. Make that mistake. Right, we got to talk about the prize because it is coming out this week on January the 12th.
January 12th.
The new album, The Prize by Hannah Wicklund, fucking rocks. Take it from me. You need to get yourself a copy. Not only does it sound amazing, it looks amazing as well, with hand-painted covers courtesy of Hannah herself. It is available to pre-order. If you can't wait till Friday, you can get it from hannahwicklund.com right now. I'll put a link in the show notes. It is amazing. It is going to be the record that you need to hear to kick off 2024 in style. You can also check out Hannah's monstrous live schedule on the website as well. She's going everywhere, literally. So get to a show. She's fucking awesome live. I'm going to be there at the Globe in Cardiff. You can also, if you want to stay up with everything, stay up to date with everything that she's doing, you can also follow her on Instagram at Hannah Wicklund. Again, I'll put a link in the show notes. And as always, support independent artists like Hannah by getting out and buying a ticket, buying a record, and showing support and showing some love. And on that note, Hannah, I want to say thank you so much for coming on chatting with me today. It's been fascinating to hear about your story. I wish you nothing but success. I can't wait to watch everything unfold the rest of this year. Please don't stop what you're doing. I know that you won't. Best wishes with the album, best wishes with the tour, and I will see you in Cardiff.
Thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you in person.
Be careful what you wish for, dude. Well, Hannah, thank you so much. My best wishes with everything. And I will see you soon. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Hannah Wicklund. Round of applause for her, guys. What an awesome dude. What an awesome artist. What an example to all of us. And what a fucking album. Man, I'm not just saying this. This isn't some like podcast promo bullshit. The album fucking rocks, man. And I seriously, genuinely do love Hell in the Hallway. You need to go and check out that bad boy on Spotify right now and then go and buy a copy. Because Hannah is as independent as they come. You know, she's running her own label, self-managing herself, and then she's getting in the fucking van and driving all the way across America and back doing the shows. So show some love, guys. You know, it costs you less than it costs to buy a fucking round of coffees or something by buying her album and directly supporting somebody who is 100% independent and also fucking awesome. So what better cause to support than that? As I said, the first place to stop is either on her Instagram page or her website at Hannah Wicklund, which is Hannah spelled the usual way. Wicklund is Wicklund. That's .com. And it's Hannah Wicklund on Instagram and all of the other socials as well. Do grab yourself a ticket to one of her concerts because she's fucking killer in concert. And I'll be there at the one in Cardiff, like I said. And get on board because this is an artist who I just know is going to go from strength to strength and height to height. So get on board now, man. For those of you that are already on board the Hannah Wicklund tsunami that's coming, I hope that was an interesting insight into like some of her process and background and the background to the album and everything like that. For those of you that have not yet discovered the awesomeness that is Hannah Wicklund, I hope this was a worthwhile introduction for you now to go and do a deep dive. And as always, before I sign off here, do not forget to subscribe to the podcast because we are stepping it up a gear this year and there's going to be loads more guests confirmed to come on. And of course, we will be moving over to video. So not only do you get my irritating voice, you get to look at my irritating mug as well. What's not to love? So if you listen to this on Apple or Spotify or Castbox or wherever the fuck you listen to it, click on the follow, click on the subscribe, click on the share, whatever you got to do. It's also available on YouTube. So go and give us some clicks over there. And I will see you next week with another awesome episode. You know the drill. Look after yourself, look after each other, and I'll see you next week. Love ya.